Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Pat Petersen. I'm a Microsoft MVP. And today I'm here with Maddy Dahl, who's also a Microsoft MVP. Maddy, say hi.
Hello, everyone. Good day.
So today we're here to talk a little bit about Cowork cost management, as well as the consumption model that for most of you are probably experiencing it for the very first time starting now. So here at the time of filming, within the next day or so is when some of those hard limits go into effect and the all-you-can-eat buffet comes to an end. And so today what we're going to do a little bit is just give a brief kind of overview of what we're looking to accomplish here, of understanding and setting up and managing the usage-based building for Copilot Cowork. Maddy, this is a conversation you and I have, I think, a couple times a day, and it's a bit exhausting, but what are we going to cover today?
Yeah, so today I think the intention is to help us understand the why. So there's a lot to Cowork, and Cowork has definitely become the buzzword, replacing Copilot almost. And so it kind of helping us, our customers, helping individuals out there, organizations understand why would we continue to use Cowork? What's the value in some of the Cowork pieces, as well as from a governance standpoint, how do we manage it? How do we set it up? How do we set limits? How do we set alerts? And then when do we get some of that visibility? Because I think that's one of the biggest complaints, if you will, that we got from a lot of people, that, why is it that we have these usage limits when the visibility isn't even there yet? And so I think that's something that Microsoft is definitely continuing to prioritize as those usage billing limits have been put in place. And so that's one of the biggest recommendations I would have for an organization looking to understand that, is start to put those into place today. So that's a big part of what we'll talk about today too.
Yeah, so when I look at that piece of it, I really think, one of the main pieces of putting that usage-based model in place from a why perspective is, if you don't do anything, your users are going to lose access to Cowork on the 30th of June of 2026. So what that means is, at the time you're watching it, you may have already lost access. And so what we're going to at least do today is to call out some of the actions you can take to set up usage-based billing and understand some of that consumption that might already be happening in your organization for it. So when we walk through a few different pieces here of usage-based billing, as well as the default spending policy, we're going to pull some of those up on the screen. So that way you'll be able to watch us kind of walk through some of those different steps. But to be very clear, we will also put the link to the Microsoft documentation on how to set this up yourself. As long as you have the appropriate permissions, it's not difficult to set up, but we always have to help out with the why. And so that's what we're going to focus today's conversation on a little bit here. So Maddy, as we're walking through the usage-based billing here, what are some of the things that folks should pay attention to or kind of understand of the things that they're seeing on the screen here right now?
Yeah, so from our Copilot, or from the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, we start to see across the left under the Copilot panel that we're now seeing that Cowork and the cost management tabs. So Cowork is going to tell us, and I'm sure this is the one that everyone's familiar with, that was kind of a brick wall for many organizations, which is, it tells you the user, it maybe tells you how many tasks, but again, where's my usage? Where's that visibility? And that visibility is going to come from the cost management tab across the left there. So as we get into the cost management tab, this is where we're going to start to see a bit more of that visibility once that usage-based billing has been configured. So if you already use an existing Azure subscription, or if you already have pay-as-you-go billing available, this is something where you'll be able to apply that as we're walking through that setup configuration. You'll also see, if you already have a prepaid credit pack, you'll have that prepaid credit pack added into that space as an easy way for you to add that in and apply that to your Cowork usage. And so for a lot of individuals who kind of had that annual contract or that annual spend that they had to use, kind of use it or lose it, this is a great way to also apply that and utilize the Cowork capabilities to use that up from a month-to-month basis as well. Some individuals, as a caveat to this, when you click on this screen, you may also see work with your CSP. or licensing provider. So that's a big caveat that I'll say for that piece of it as well. So if you're not seeing some of these screens on that we're showing, definitely reach out to your licensing provider or CSP to help you walk through some of these steps. At least once watching this video, you'll get an idea as to what steps they have to go through and what levers they have to pull and what limits that you have to configure. And so these are all nonetheless good pieces of information for you to be aware of in terms of those limits. But Pat, do you want to tell us a little bit about those limits and what options they have?
Yeah. So when you move into the policy here, I think the key, items to think about is that, as Cowork has shifted away from the all you can use while it was in frontier status, the next piece is really how do we make sure that we're managing it appropriately and what are some of those limits that are in place? So really what we're seeing here on the screen is some of the more default ones, the policy name, the billing method, what subscription is it going to leverage and utilize? The ability to understand what user and group access is, that's available underneath the customize section at the bottom. A little bit frustrated, to be honest with you, that's not more surfaceable at the front. I feel like everything else is at the front. Maddy, I don't know if you agree with me there, but it feels like it should be more front and center of like, hey, not everybody in your organization should get the default allotment available to you. And then when I think about from a monthly spending limit aspect of it, certainly as you're seeing on the screen, this subscription's tied to my credit card. And so we want to put a little bit of a limit in there to make sure that we're not going to overconsume the amount of money. So in this case of it, at the time here, each credit or token is equal to 1 penny for that. And so, roughly you can do the math in the USD side. Certainly if you're in another country, another currency, make sure you're reviewing that as well to see how that maths out. But really the key piece there, I think at the bottom here is the alert section. The ability to really make sure that your users have that your admins rather get the alerts appropriately when someone may be over consuming. Because I'll be honest with you, Maddy, when I think about leveraging Cowork like I've done the last few months, I have let it run wild. Meaning I have had to do things that I didn't even know was possible for it. So one of mine that I burned, and I'm curious on the actual usage itself, was I had it reorganize my entire Outlook inbox with folders. And so it was roughly 300 folders that it moved in my mailbox. So I can only imagine what the usage was there. That would have for sure triggered an alert there. As you're looking at this,
use that cost function, Pat.
There we go.
That cost function.
At the end. At the end, yes, absolutely. At the end, absolutely. So with that, here, as we're coming down further from a limits perspective, Maddy, do you want to walk through maybe some of the items in terms of customizing it and managing the configuration there?
Yeah. So the customization section is where we start to see, as Pat had mentioned, some of the default limits and kind of as you're looking at some of these default limits, thinking to yourself, sure, I can configure the monthly limit, but how do I say these users are who this applies to? And that's where we get into that customization of the settings. So this, from the customization of the settings, this is where we want to start to see, okay, I've configured that I have a monthly spending limit, but now I want to make sure that it applies only to my Copilot champions in my organization or my Cowork super users, whoever that might be. And so that might be 3 individuals across your organization. It might be 30 individuals across your organization. And so whatever that might be for you, you can either create a group and apply this policy to that group. And that's one of the options you'll see here. Or you can also determine specific individuals. The third option that you'll have as well is all users. And so if we want to set a default policy across all of the organization, that again is kind of where we get into that tenant level, group level, user level that Microsoft had pushed out in its main communication that Cowork is now generally available. So this is where we start to see that come into place here.
Yeah.
And the only other piece that I was just going to mention is that really as an admin, you have the ability to refine who that policy will pertain to, and that you'll continue to see kind of a big picture view of what have we configured so far and what does this look like. So it's a great way to kind of validate that we've configured it the right way.
Yeah, and when I think of the real world usage of it, and we see something again, what you're seeing here is a demo environment for both of these settings here. But you can see, as we're going through this, we had someone that delivered a training on Cowork recently, and it was about an hour-long training. And Maddy, at the end of the day, how many credits did they use, and roughly what does that equal in terms of a dollar value for that?
Yeah, so this particular individual on our screen here, we've got about 4,000 credits was their monthly spend to date. And in an hour session, it was just over 2,000 Cowork credits or Copilot credits that was kind of used there. And so in that instance, translated by the penny that it is worth today at the time of the recording, that's about $20 that person would have spent. And so that's one way in which we can start to look at that, if my math is right.
Yeah, so leveraging, I think the key piece there is if you're leveraging Cowork as your true coworker, from a cost perspective, it's certainly competitive with, going and having a coworker along with you to help you with specific sets of tasks overall. I think the other piece, Maddy, that I'm really excited about as we go through it here, the first one talking about governing Cowork and some of the cost management that goes with it. But we are going to take a moment in the future to talk about the cost of Cowork compared to other tools. So Is it cheaper than Claude? Is it cheaper than some of the other, ones out there? We'll probably focus in on Claude because I think Claude Cowork and Copilot Cowork often get confused since they use the same name. And then as we go through it, I think the biggest piece that we're seeing a lot of people have is some of the upskilling and enablement. So do you want to give a little sneak peek of what we're going to talk about there?
Yeah. I think from an upskilling perspective, some of the things that we'll talk about, because this is really part one of our 3-part series. And I think in our future series or in our future parts, we'll continue to talk through the importance of change management and adoption. Because I think with Cowork, people got really excited about what it was able to do, and they lost sight of kind of how we traditionally treat technology in our organization, which is we identify a small group of power users, we identify those use cases from that group, and then we are able to push out to the rest of the organization, highlighting those use cases so that we're able to get the max value from the tool that we're investing in. And I think that that's really the similar trajectory that I would continue to recommend and continue to utilize with this tool, is really continuing to invest in that small group of users so that we can continue to keep the trajectory moving forward and find the value in the tool that way. That makes it worth the value that it costs the organization to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from there, as we round out today, hopefully everyone got a little bit of a sneak peek into how to manage the cost side of the house and get that set up for success there. So you maybe don't lose access, but if you lose access, how to get you access back. And then certainly as we build on it here over the next couple of video and written blogs, you'll be able to connect some of them further here down the path of leveraging Cowork more. So with that, Maddy, thanks for the time. Always appreciate catching up with you.
Thanks, Pat. Take care, everybody.